Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prizepicks and the Gametime app.
And welcome to the Bruins Beat presented by Prizepicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, and we're presented by Gametime. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And remember, go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube if you aren't already. Lots of great content over there. 6 podcasts a week between Bruins Beat, Poke the Bear, Pucks with Haggs, all that good stuff. And we have scrums, interviews, analysis, some live streams over there. And if you just like to listen, you don't want to watch. You're like, these are okay. I don't want to fully watch them, but I want to listen. Or you're driving, which fair. Make sure to go subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever, and lots of other great CLNS content as well. Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access, all that good stuff. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. We hockey's back. We had a game on Sunday night. I know you were at the Patriots all day, which a lot of fun. Great great day. Yeah.
Yikes.
Fun time. Beautiful day though. Give you that. Nice day out. Going to a football game. I hope you used Gametime if you did.
True.
That was a hell of a temperature to be at a game for. Not sure the result.
Beautiful fall weather. You know, you're still taking it in. It's not like it's December. You're not freezing your ass off out there. So there was a time to go to a game, especially if you were a Steelers fan. It was that one.
Damn right, it was that one. Bruins played the Capitals in their first preseason game on Sunday night. My first observation, we'll get into the games in a bit, but my first observation,
yikes.
I love those damn sweaters.
Oh, okay.
I said my first, in total, not. Yes. I that was my biggest takeaway coming away. Yikes! We'll get to that in a second. But just as I hit the ice, I watched it from home. I like the unis. I like them a lot. This sounds like state television, but they hit a home run with the homes. We'll see what the aways look like on Tuesday when they're at MSG, but those are nice. Those are nice sweaters.
Yeah, no complaints. I've heard a few people say they think the actual B is too big, but I'm all for it. I haven't noticed it. Now that people keep on tweeting about it, I start looking a little bit closer at it. But I think all things considered, this was a team that I think you look at where they are in this retool, rebuild, whatever it is, need to freshen things up, new chapter, all that good stuff. So I'm all for these new sweaters.
On the other hand, yikes.
On the other hand, holy moly.
Here was my biggest takeaway. My biggest takeaway from Sunday. And it was game 1 of the preseason. Obviously a lot to work on. Nothing's going to be smooth. I get it. I understand that. What you saw Sunday was the worst case scenario for this team. If they get defense like that,
they suck.
Or if they get goaltending like that, that's it. Now, they didn't have Pastrnak. They didn't have, it's half of Providence, half of Boston lineup. I get all that. My point, though, is when you have those you can't afford to have those defensive lapses. And I'm not saying, by the way, I am absolutely not saying, they need to clean this up right now. I mean, obviously, they kind of do. But, it's the first game of the preseason. You have 5 more of these to freshen things up. I'm just saying. You talk about, worst case scenario. We talk all, they need to be a team that wins 3-2, wins 2-1. You get defense like that, you get goaltending like that, you're not going to win much. So that's to me, that was my big thing. That's the worst case scenario for them, is that they defend like that and they get, and it wasn't even on Michael DiPietro, really. He didn't have a great game, but it wasn't his fault. There was some faulty defense in front of him, turnovers, all that stuff. And again, it's game 1 of the preseason. So, temper the expectations. But to me, that's, you can't have that during the season. And they really can't afford to have that.
Yeah, I think you look at the Bruins and what you're expecting from this group. There has to be some non-negotiables, right, in terms of what this team needs to adhere to if they want to be a more competitive group out there. And yeah, to your point, I don't think you should get too swept up in one preseason game. There's going to be a lot of work in progress. I mean, Marco Sturm pretty much said after the game, we hadn't even had an opportunity to work on the power play. Their first time working on the power play was during the game. They were 0-for-3 there. So, I think you can't get too swept up in all these things, but as far as the non-negotiables, right? You don't need to look at system tweaks or there not being enough chemistry or cohesion with a power play or the breakout, like those are things that's going to come in time, right? You're going to iron out those details with more practices, more preseason games. That has no sway over you having the puck in the D zone and firing a hand grenade out in front that gets picked off and ends up in the back of the net. Like there's got to be things that the players themselves have to manage the puck well, can't lose puck battles, can't be, throwing pucks into no man's land and then expect to just get bailed out. Like if this is going to be a team, as you said, that is going to have to rely on winning games 2-1, be a stingy defensive team. And again, I think we've all said it time and time and time again that this team is going to really struggle scoring. Then they're going to have to really clean things up defensively. It might mean that it's not going to be those riveting product out there on the ice at times. But if you're taking care of the puck, you're not making those careless errors, you're not turning the puck over in your own end, you're adhering to, I think, what the Bruins need to do to at least be a somewhat more competitive team this year. And you didn't see that in this one. It'd be one thing, like, again, if the Bruins were, let's say, like they were trying to be way too aggressive in the offensive zone and we're activating and we're getting caught flat-footed and all that stuff. And you're like, all right, I see what they're trying to do. And you have to iron out those details. Or it's something like that where you see what they're trying to do, right, with changing systems around. There's no X's and O's or anything that comes with looking at the tape on Monday and being like, yeah, don't feed the puck in front to no one and get picked off, right? Like, so I think those are the non-negotiables, the baseline standards that I think this team needs to adhere to, because you can change around the neutral zone, you can change around the D zone, you can make all the tweaks here and there. If you're that careless with the puck in your own end, you're going to get buried. And that's that.
Yeah, and I think you saw that. And you didn't just see that from Providence guys. You saw that from Boston guys. Zadorov had some turnovers that literally went straight in the back of the net, which, again, is sort of a continuation of some trends, concerning trends that happened last year. McAvoy and Lowry got out battled in front of their own net on one of their goals as well. So it's like you have those moments where it's like, you have 5 more games. And I assume like those 3 probably won't play Tuesday. We'll see how they decide to divvy that up. But like, you need those guys on. You need those guys on, especially a guy like Zadorov, who it's sort of like, if he can elevate from off of last year, which he statistically had a pretty good year. I think the eye test tells a little bit of a different story, but it's like, if he can elevate and be that shutdown presence on the left side, likely on the second pairing, you're cooking. You're in a much better spot, but it's those giveaways. And it's just, it numbs your brain when that happens, because it's like, that's so avoidable. Guy like him, chip it off the glass if you have to. Like, chip it to the outside. And I think, and again, it's one game. Like, we're basing off one game, but like, what are we not going to talk about it? So again, like defensive lapses like that, seeing it continue is worrisome. And I know they want to run like a man. They want to have the wings cover the D man on man up top. We'll see how that sort of works out. We'll get a better gauge on that, I think, Tuesday. But yeah, defensively weren't good enough. Goaltending wasn't good enough. They get out hot. Geekie scores that first one. It's like, all right, here we go. 50-goal season for Morgan Geekie's inbound. In terms of young players, I know, like, my eyes, I was mainly watching the middle 6 guys who was standing out. I actually thought Matt Poitras had a pretty good game. I liked Matt Poitras. I know he said he didn't feel like he started off great. I didn't mind him. I thought he supported the plays well. I thought he was involved. He was noticeable. Obviously didn't generate much offense, but I liked him. I know he almost got his leg taken off, but he was someone that I was okay with. Was there anyone that stuck out to you in that middle 6?
Yeah, I would say that with Poitras, it's good that he draws 3 penalties, still is getting the crap kicked out of him. So you don't like to see that for a guy that I think that is the biggest issue. I think you see what Poitras can be as a playmaker with the poise that he has with the puck. It's not going to do you any good if you're getting smoked every time you're out there on the ice. So that's something to keep tabs on. In terms of other guys, like in the middle 6 grouping, the younger players, I thought Blümel had a few instances where he had some good looks. I think his skating and his shot were pretty evident. Wasn't, again, kind of like I think most of the younger players, some good and some bad. Wasn't like if you were expecting a takeover game from one of those players where they break out and all of a sudden they put themselves in a good spot to kind of build momentum. I don't think anyone really ran with that. Like, even, let's say, like a guy like Fabian Lysell was, I think, kind of throwing his weight around pretty early on, which I think was encouraging to see. He's not a power forward by any means, right? But has the skating to really make an impact and kind of play to, I think, what Marco Sturm wants his forwards to be doing, which is just being like a hound after the puck. But then he kind of quieted down after that. I don't think he had 0 shots on goal. Like, you just need a little bit more consistent assertiveness, I think, from Lysell. I would say, honestly, the prospect, I guess, that impressed me the most, which is unfortunate because I don't know if he's going to crack the roster, is Freddie Brunet. I thought him and Peak were actually really good together. And again, like, I don't think Brunet is, when the Bruins drafted him, he was known as this like offensively gifted defenseman who was going to have to do a lot of work in his own end. I think the Bruins have done a pretty good job with him of ironing out his game, the finer details, the D zone work. He's good with the puck, but he's not like a offensive dynamo. I think he just knows to move the puck with authority. Broke up a few odd man rushes down the other end of the ice. So I actually thought that D pair, Brunet and Peak, was pretty good. How much has that changed? Like, what Peak, not what Peak, but what Brunet can do moving forward to like leapfrog some of the guys? I think he's got a pretty tough task in front of him in terms of beating out, a Mike Callahan or Harris or someone like that. But I thought it was a pretty good performance from him. And he's a guy that feels like once the inevitable injury bug does kind of sprout up here, he's probably going to be one of the first guys called up. And I think he was pretty solid in that game.
I agree. I think he's someone that you're seeing him as like, oh, he's a reliable call-up. He's a good, reliable 6th or 7th D call-up when the injury bug hits, the flu bug, whatever it is. And you can rely on him in his own zone, which is a huge boost for them because I think they could use guys like that on the call-up. I want to get more into some of the middle six guys. One of them was in a prominent role in training camp on Monday that I think you could have a legit takeaway from. But first, our friends over at Prizepicks. This episode's brought to you by Prizepicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prizepicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prizepicks, where it's good to be right. And I was partially right this weekend. I put one together on Sunday. I put a flex play together. Drake May, more than 0.5 passing touchdowns. Drake May, more than 251.5 passing and rushing yards. Hunter Henry, more than 19.5 receiving yards. And I did my other team was Jamar Chase over 59 or more than 59.5 receiving yards. I hit all the Patriots ones. I didn't hit the Bengals one. And you'd think, oh, that must be it, right? You're done. Nope. It was a flex play. So I still made money because I got 3 of 4 right, which is huge and it's fun. Prizepicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prizepicks also has injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prizepicks won't count it as a loss. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, it's good to be right. Who doesn't want to be right? And I was almost right. I was pretty right on that one. Good day for the Drake May for good stuff like that. So that's all good. You know who else I liked? I didn't mind on Sunday. And every time I watch him, I go, man, he makes a lot of sense for like that third line center spot. Fraser Minten. He's smart. Like again, the offensive side needs to come. Does he open the season as the third line center? I saw Mick Calaggio tweet like, I don't see how he doesn't. I guess I could see how he doesn't. Like they go with Zaka, they start with Minten and Providence, but I didn't mind Minten on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think he's as advertised, right? To your point, I think the biggest question mark with him, both this year and in the years ahead, if he's going to be a regular NHL player, is just what his offensive ceiling is going to be, right? Is he like a Chris Kelly type where it's going to be like 30, 40 points? Does he have more to give? Is he more of a like Coyle where he could hit 50 every couple of years? I think that's probably the biggest question mark with him. But in terms of like the floor, you like what he already kind of provides. He's a guy, he's not like an overly physical player, but can finish his hits, wins faceoffs. He was 6 of 7 and faceoffs. Kind of just does a little bit of everything. And I think if you're Marco Sturm and you're trying to find a guy for that third line spot, and we'll see how it maps out, right? I feel like just a few days ago, we were talking about how Pavel Zacha was going to be the 3C, and then he was skating with Arvidsson and Middlestat on Monday. So I think a lot of it's in flux, but if you're Marco Sturm and you're trying to, bring in a younger player that can help you out now and for the future, and it's also a little bit of a safer option as opposed to maybe a guy that's going to have some growing pains like a Lysell or Potter or someone like that, I think you can put Fraser Minten in the lineup on October 8th, and you kind of can know night in and night out what to expect from that type of player in terms of just like the baseline of what he can bring, and then you kind of see what he can do after that.
Yeah, and I think you don't have to work with him on those little things. Those things that most young players coming up that are guys that you factor in your lineup. Usually it's, hey, we need to work on the D zone with this guy. We need to work on his play away from the puck. He doesn't have that. His issue is what's the offensive ceiling. Everything else is there. You can rely on him on in third period D zone draws. Sturm talked about this last week of what he wants his third line to be. Minten fits that. Minten completely fits that. You know who else sort of not shocked me? And I don't know his game well. So Sunday night was really the first time I'd watched him extensively, was Alex Steeves. Alex Steeves has some physicality to him. And, he was someone, brought in, signed with Blümel. And I think we kind of pair them together of, these guys might have some high offensive upside. Maybe they can pack a punch in the lineup. Blümel to me feels like someone that needs to be in a top six. I don't, or at the lowest, the third line. Blümel does not seem like someone who defensively is going to be out there in big situations. Steeves has some physicality to him. And I do wonder if, and I don't know if he starts the season up in Boston, but I do wonder at some point, when he does get his call up, does it have to be a top six spot? I don't think it does. I mean, just basing off of Sunday and how physical he was and how active he was on the forecheck, I could see him maybe fitting anywhere in the lineup. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of too bad, right? Because Alex Steeves had an awesome year in the AHL. I think he actually had like more goals like per 60 because I think he didn't play as many games as Blümel, but was almost just as productive. And I feel like he kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit because everyone just looks at Blümel where he's got the 39 goals and he's kind of the first guy up. But I do agree that, especially if you're just trying to find more guys in that third line spot, like let's say it is Fraser Minten as the third line center, and it's like him and Tanner Jeannot or someone like that. Again, like you can, I think, map out the floor of what's the reasonable expectation for a line like that. Where's the scoring going to come from? And I wonder if like maybe a guy like Blümel or a guy like Steeves maybe can kind of be a little bit more physical would be a logical fit there. Again, I think it's going to come down to the players like Blümel and Steeves to put their best foot forward, moving forward and generating some offense. But I wouldn't be surprised if Sturm and his coaching staff, as they're just trying to find any sort of source of 5-on-5 offense, if they're going to give guys like Blümel and Steeves an extended look there, because I think you just need to find some sort of shot first option there on that third line. Because right now, don't really know who's like the leader of the pack in that group.
I don't know who's going to be. So it'll be interesting to see with Steeves. Blumel's a really interesting one. And I think there was a tell on Monday where I have a tough time thinking he doesn't make the team. But first, who's back, Connor? Who? Gametime is back, and they're back at the best time. College football season is back, and it's one of the most fun times of the year. Tailgates, hyped up crowds, incredible finishes. The downside to that, though, can often be the process of getting tickets, queues, annoying login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. The Gametime app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. Incredibly easy to use. And the Gametime guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, I love this, fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. And that's it. This weekend, Patriots host the Panthers, and you can get in for as little as $124. And there are some amazing deals throughout the first level. Take guesswork out of buying college football or any sport tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. Blümel. So on Monday, I don't know why I'm saying Sunday. On Monday, Sturm had Group A as sort of like more of a penalty killing group and penalty killing guys, and Group B was power play. They had the number one unit, which off the top of my head was McAvoy, Pasternak, Geeky, Zaka, and Elias Lindholm. And the second unit, off the top of my head, let's see if I can do this without notes in front of me. Hampus Lindholm at the top. I'm trying to have a certain person be last. So I got the Casey Middlestat. Oh God,
Lorai? Was
Lorai and Lochmelis were alternating. And then Arvidsson and Matěj Blümel. And Blümel was not alternating. Blümel was there. He was, if I'm Hampus Lindholm to my right, he was on the right side. And they were running sort of an umbrella. So again, and some of the power play facilitated through him. They ran it off the wall quite a bit. Things can change in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. There are more preseason games. Sturm was adamant, don't look too much into the lines. But I am going to look deep into the power play. Blümel being a fixture on that second power play unit, to me, I don't know how he doesn't make the team now. Unless he falls off completely, I don't see how he doesn't make the team.
Yeah, I think it's going to ultimately come down to what he can show during the preseason, right? You need him to finish one of these chances. And again, you've had a few spurts there where in that game on Sunday, had a few good opportunities, some pretty clean entries where he's taking the puck to the front of the net. I think the skating is kind of what surprised me, that he has a little bit more of a boost than I expected. And then you look at a guy at the AHL who's that productive a goal scorer. You're like, all right, is he just bombing away? Is that, but he can move pretty well. And that's something I think even David Pastrnak mentioned today, is that he was a underrated skater. So you need to see him produce. But I think it kind of harkens back to what Marco Sturm mentioned a few days ago, where it's clear this team needs to find other guys to step up as dependable scorers. And I think you look at Blümel, what Sturm has mentioned is his tools, right? His ability to score in a variety of ways. I think the Bruins want to give a guy like that has that clear scoring ability, that clear scoring touch, every opportunity to earn a spot. So I think you're going to see, let's say he's playing in another preseason game and he doesn't pop there. I'm sure he's going to get another game as well. I'm sure they're going to keep on putting him on the power play 2 unit. I'm sure they want to give him an opportunity to play with, maybe Arvidsson or another skilled player, a middle stat, and see what you can provide there, as opposed to all right, we're going to give you one more preseason game and maybe you'll be with Minten and Janot, or, I think where the Bruins need to identify these guys that have more upside as a scorer. It's kind of like what we said before camp even started, Evan, right? Where, as opposed to years past, where the Bruins are all right, you got to, adjust your game to our terms to get a spot. Instead, it's hey, you do this really well. Keep on doing that and try to earn a spot that way, and then we'll work with you the rest of the way. But if he's going to be a productive shot-first winger on this team and he starts producing, I think they're going to give him a shot, because I think you need to have a player like that in your lineup, especially for a team that, beyond David Pastrnak and Morgan Geekie, I don't know where that type of player really is on this roster.
You're hoping he pops, and I do think if you and I know he's been with Zacha a little bit from time to time, and I know that
bring all the Czech guys together, do another Czech line.
That's right, yeah. Blümel, Zacha, and Pastrnak. I think that would be, people would love that. Sturm has mentioned that he likes to have guys in pairs, and I do wonder if he did end up going with, and I know Zacha was on that, technically the second line on Monday.
Don't read into
it. Don't read into it. Do not read into it. But if he does go with Lindholm, Middlestat, and Zacha down the middle, that does leave a left wing spot open. Does Blümel jump in to that second line and they up his minutes quite a bit? Because I don't know if he's a guy that you'd have on that third line as a reliable, any situation kind of player. I think Blümel fits more on a high offensive role. Do you put him with Middlestat and just say, let it go, let it all hang out, just all offense all the time? I don't know, but I think you hit the nail on the head with they don't have many offensive weapons on this team. If he can pop, and if they feel they can put him in the best position that leads to him popping, then you have to let him cook. That was a lot of just phrases in a short amount of time. But it's true. I think they are with him. I like seeing him on that second power play unit. Give him a long runway.
Yeah, I think when it's a player that has a skill set that you covet, that you don't have on your roster, it's all about finding a way to give them an opportunity. I kind of look at it, what was it, in 2018-19 when the Bruins had, Jake DeBrusk in that second line spot. Young player, wasn't really proven, had a really good year in Providence, so I think he was ready to take that next step, but they didn't open his rookie season on the third line. He was right there with David Krejci, where he spent most of his career, right? And I think for the Bruins, where you had a lot of younger guys arriving there, you see a guy like Jake DeBrusk, who's a great skater, who has a nose for the net. Yeah, we're not going to ease you into it. We're going to put you with our best, probably pure playmaker in Krejci and see if you can cook there. And he did a pretty good job at it. Even on that same season, Anders Bjork didn't stick around as a long-time NHLer, but he had a pretty good camp, and a good camp in terms of he wasn't lighting it up, right? Didn't have a hat trick, anything like that, but was bringing pace, was bringing creativity, was hounding pucks, and they gave him a spot there to play with Bergeron and Marchand too. Like they've, I think when you're a team like the Bruins and that 18-19 team obviously was a contender and went on quite a run there, but also that was a group that I think realized that as these younger players were coming in, we have to give them every opportunity to add a new wrinkle, a new dynamic to a group that has been pretty established for some time. So I think if a guy like Blümel, who has that offensive capability, that shot first mindset, you got to give him every opportunity there, and it shouldn't be just all right. Congrats, you made the team, but the best we can do is the third line. If he can, provide that offense, and it means that he's going to get a top 6 spot out of the gate, I'd lean into it. And if he can't handle it, then you adjust from there. But if he can prove that he's a player worth getting an extended look moving forward, I think you have to lean into what he can provide to a team that does not have a lot of other proven ways to consistently score, especially at 5-on-5.
And this is the year to do it. This is the year. Like 18-19 and 17-18, you were contending. You were in it. You were a playoff team. Like this is, you probably aren't going to be one this year. So you're going to need it. One other thing Stern mentioned that was interesting. He said if Blümel wants to make the team, he's got to subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube.
It's really odd. It was really nice that he did that, but I found that.
Yeah, I would think you wouldn't want to, but apparently, according to Marco Sturm, you're going to want to subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. He even said there's tons of podcasts every week, live streams, all that stuff. Like Bruins Beat, Poke the
I thought like he gave him. I thought he gave him like a script or something to read, but no, he just off the cuff.
Off the cuff, and then he said something about friend of the pod. They said something like, "Well, friend of you at Dunks." I think you must have slipped him something. I think you slipped him like a promo for the channel or something like that.
I would never.
And then his next words out of his mouth were, "And if you're driving or if you just don't like watching Evan and
Connor," made it abundantly clear that if you guys are watching YouTube as you're driving, that's a big no-no. You're not a friend of the pod.
Disapproves. Nope, Marco Sturm doesn't like that. And then he said something like, "There's a lot of other great content at CLNS," something like that. So yeah, I guess go subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube.
Listen to Marco.
Yeah, exactly. Take the coach's advice. What I wonder for all this is, where's Fabian Lysell? Where's he fitting in all this? Because he was in that Group A on Monday, and I didn't watch a ton of it. I was doing other work, so I can't tell you exactly what he did, but he wasn't on either of those power play units. And sort of in that next group, I just wonder what their hopes are. I know people like the physicality that he's bringing. At times, there's a little bit of play driving. At least there was on Sunday. Him, Merkulov. I just wonder, like, are they getting a chance? Are they going to break out at all? Like, what's it going to take for those guys? Because, again, they've been around a long time here. And it's like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, I almost feel like for guys like Lysell and Merkulov, it's just going to fall on the player themselves to change maybe some of that narrative, or maybe to do something on the ice that makes the coaches open up the door for more reps, more power play looks, all that sort of stuff, right? And I think like where you have all this kind of next wave of talent of the Mintens, the Lashmelises, all that stuff, the Blümels, who's not a prospect, right, but a newcomer to this group that has the skill set that the Bruins haven't really tapped into yet. I'm not saying that, someone like Lysell is hit his, maximum or he's tapped out here in Boston, but I think they kind of know what type of player he is. So now it falls on the player himself to make his, best case for the roster. And I think you need like a takeover game. I'm not saying he needs like a hat trick, but I think you need him to be really assertive out there. You need a guy like Merkulov and Lysell to avoid getting leapfrogged by these other guys in the system, a prospect pipeline that's getting a lot better. Maybe it's not like going to be immediate, but they're clearly adding a lot more skill into this group over the last couple of years. I think it's going to fall on the player themselves to put their best foot forward and kind of change that overall narrative. And as I said earlier, like I thought Lysell was really engaged at the start of the game, and then he kind of went away from it a little bit, didn't have a shot on goal. And I think you just need to, if you're a guy that has had some of those opportunities in the NHL, I think he was actually playing pretty well down the stretch there. But the knock against him is just that consistency part of things. Well, you need to bounce back in your next game. And I think it's just a reality that guys like Merkulov and Lysell just probably don't have the same amount of runway as either younger guys in the system or guys that maybe are on that same development timeline, but are maybe new faces to the team. And I think it's just, you need a bounce back game in the next preseason game, whenever that is, for Lysell and for Merkulov.
I wonder, like, if Lysell, I don't know if Lysell makes this team out of camp. And let's just say Lysell plays the full season in Providence. And let's just say he's really productive, which the last couple of years, he has not been the most productive guy in Providence. Let's just say he is. Strikes me as a Blümel. Not saying they're the same player, but I'm saying strikes me as someone who, like, has a really good year in Providence and then is like, you know what, I need to change the scenery because I don't see an opportunity here, and a different team takes a swing at him. And I know they're not the same player, but that you get where I'm coming from with that. Like, same with Merkulov too. Merkulov's been very productive in the AHL the last couple of years, and not a lot of opportunity at the NHL level. And I think he probably has earned it a little more than Lysell has. But both those guys are sort of from past years. You know, you talk a lot about the shiny new toy. Obviously, you have Haggs and Wilmore and those guys down the road. You've got Blümel, Minten, Patra now. Lysell feels he's been around a while. Same with not Lashamelis, Merkulov, where it's sort of like that past iteration. It's like, you know, did you miss the chance? I don't think they missed their chance, but I just think in terms of organizationally where they're at, they're in a better spot now. So I do wonder if that sort of closed the door, at least for now, for those guys. Someone else that got a lot of hype this summer. A lot of people wondered about in net. You know, is Michael DiPietro going to be the backup? Not the best night. Not all his fault. Also, not the best night. I'm not super worried about him competing with Korpisalo quite yet. I think he'd need a really good couple of preseason games for that to be the case. Again, I don't know. Does the team take a chance on him with waivers? Like, maybe, but I also wonder if a team sees like Sunday night and says, we'll pass on that.
Yeah, I think ideally, like, you do have to weigh that when it comes to DPH or Korpisalo, and I think the Bruins would probably like for DPH to at least make a push, and they probably want him to make that be an agonizing decision as to who to expose to waivers, because I have to imagine if it is, let's say DiPietro wins out that job over Korpisalo, you probably have a better chance of getting Korpisalo through waivers if you have to do that, and also alleviating a little bit of cap space. Not a whole lot, but I think almost rather that than, let's say DiPietro has a really good camp and then you put him on waivers, where it feels like if he does, you know, bounce back from this game on Sunday, a lot of teams will want to take a stab at bringing him into the system, see what they can do. The worst case, he's your backup goalie for a team that could use it. Like, I feel like Edmonton's always the de facto, holy crap, our goaltending sucks, we need someone else. But maybe it's not even something we talk about if DiPietro can't string together some good performances. So I think the Bruins, listen, they signed him to a 2-year deal with the expectation. I think they thought he could make a push during this training camp and preseason. I agree. Like, the D zone coverage, the puck play in front of him was not great, but I also think he probably wanted at least probably a save or two there, right? Like, it still wasn't a
If you're going to make the team,
showing.
You got to make a couple of those.
Yeah,
saves.
exactly. Like, you still need to, I think, bail your team out when they're not playing at a high level. That's what you need to do to be an NHL goaltender. So see how he responds from it. I'm curious to see just what – I think we all know Jeremy Swayman is going to be the number one guy in net. So I think who gets those reps over the rest of the preseason between Korpisalo and DiPietro is going to be something worth following here, because I think the Bruins, as painful as it would be, would like to have that tough call as to whether or not DiPietro really is ready once you get to the final stretches of cutdown day.
Oh, God, yeah. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over at the Globe and Boston.com. We've covered every step of the way this Bruins training camp, preseason, going into the regular season. You can read all my stuff over there on those two sites. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.